In the book of Daniel, chapter 2, we find a story of the king of Babylon. In the second year of his kingdom, one night he has a dream, was petrified by it, and then the dream vanished from him. So then Daniel 2:2 states, Then the king gave the command to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king, and the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to know the dream. The king was paying these magicians, astrologers, sorcerers to know things regular citizens wouldn't know. So when he asked them to tell him his dream and its interpretation, the wise men stated that it was impossible. Then the king became furious and sent all of his wise men to be killed. Within these wise men was Daniel. Daniel was a Hebrew captive taken from his land to the Babylonian Empire. When they came for Daniel, he asked the guards why they were being rounded up. The guards stated the situation. It was then when Daniel asked for some time so he and his friends could pray to God about it. Then after much prayer, God gives Daniel the dream and its interpretation. Daniel, with God's help, goes before the king and states the dream. The dream was a giant statue. This statue was made out of different elements. It had a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet and toes out of part iron and part potter's clay. Then, without any hands, a stone was cut out and struck the statue on its feet and crushed it. Then that stone became a great mountain that filled the entire earth. This was the dream. The interpretation we can also find in Daniel 2, starting in verse 37. He tells the king, You are the head of gold. The head of gold represents the kingdom of Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar. After the kingdom of Babylon, a kingdom of the element silver will arise. Consequently, a third made out of bronze, and then the fourth of iron. When the fourth kingdom is in rule, it will be divided. In other words, this giant statue was a timeline of kingdoms. Each metal is represented by a kingdom. If Babylon was a ruling kingdom at the time, what kingdom came next? Who was the silver chest in arms? Who conquered Babylon? Babylon was conquered by Cyrus the Great, the Medo-Persian Empire. And this empire ruled from 539 BC to 331 BC. This means that the chest and arms of silver was the Medo-Persian Empire. And what empire came next? Who is the belly and thighs of bronze? After the Medo-Persian Empire, it was the Greek Empire who came to rule. Therefore, it's Greece represents the belly and thighs of bronze. Who is this fourth kingdom? Which empire is the legs of iron? Who overtook the Greek Empire? On June 22, 168 BC, in the Battle of Pydna, the Greek Empire was overtaken by the Roman army. On Daniel chapter 2, verse 40, it states, The fourth empire will be as strong as iron, in which can break and shatter everything to pieces. This fourth empire is none other than the Roman Empire. Therefore, the legs of iron represents the Roman Empire. They ruled from 168 BC to 476 AD. And what kingdom came after the Roman Empire? Who conquered Rome? In Daniel chapter 2 verse 41, it states that the fourth kingdom will not be conquered but divided. If we look how the Roman Empire fell, we can see that it was divided and not conquered. It had become so big that it was difficult to govern from Rome. The emperor Diocletian divided it. The Western Empire would be governed by Rome, and the Eastern Empire by Byzantium. Add that to the fact that between the years 351 AD to 476 AD, Rome was divided even more by 10 barbarian tribes. These 10 barbarian tribes were the Alemanni, Burgundians, Franks, Lombards, Saxons, Suevi, Visigoths, Ruli, Ostrogoths, and Vandals. These 10 barbarian tribes became the countries in Europe. So, who is the feet with part iron and part potter's clay? That would be divided Rome. Now, let's look to see who are these 10 tribes that came out of divided Rome. The Alemanni are the Germans, Burgundians are the Swiss, Franks are the French, the Lombards are the Italians, the Saxons are the English, the Suevi are the Portuguese, and the Visigoths are the Spanish. Caruli, Ostrogoths, and Vandals are extinct. This was actually prophesied in Daniel chapter 7. These barbarian tribes are divided Rome. Today, it is more known as Europe. Therefore, Europe represents the feet of part iron and part potter's clay. In Daniel 2 verse 43, it says that divided Rome will try to unite once again. The key word here is try. However, it will be unsuccessful since iron does not mix with clay. So have there been efforts to unite Europe? Big time, yes. For example, Charlemagne with the Holy Roman Empire, Charles V of Spain, King Louis XIV of France, Napoleon, and Adolf Hitler. All of these men tried to unite Europe but failed. Why? Because God had already stated the future. No man can change God's prophetic future. So, to recap, the head of gold is Babylon, the chest and arms of silver is Medo-Persia, the belly and thighs of bronze is Greece, the legs of iron is Rome, the feet of part iron and part potter's clay is divided divided Rome, 10 barbarian tribes which became 7 and then later became Europe. This last kingdom is a rock that destroys the statue. This represents the end of human reign and the start of a new and everlasting one, God's kingdom. I hope this helps you understand Daniel chapter 2. God bless.